So thank you for coming out to this. This is going to be kind of a special clinic. It's a unique one. We've got a lot going on. I was fortunate, the way this one came together, which came together at the last minute. I was fly fishing, went on an annual fly fishing trip. It's called the Fishing Musician Trip. It's about your industry principles from around the industry. It's guys like Greg Mackey from Mackey Design, the owners of QSC. A lot of other major guys, CEO for Fender and whatnot. We get together once a year. And when I got to the lodge, man, here's this joyful guy coming up, and I'm meeting him, and I'm Danny, and this and that, and we're going through it. I wasn't thinking I was meeting Danny from Chicago at the time, and sure enough, it was Danny Seraphine. So I spent a few days, and I got to tell you, it was the most interesting few days, because he's got some stories, and it was one of the funnest times we ever had in this fly fishing trip. During those conversations, he's telling me about, hey, I'm doing some clinics around California. You're out in California. Where you at? So I'm going to be down in the Bay Area. I said, why don't we do one then? And that's how this came together. Let's put our hands together for George Hullin, the drummer from the group.
Thank you, Skip. Wow. Thanks, everybody. And thank you, Skip, for your contributions of 40-plus years in keeping our Sacramento music scene alive and well with venues just like this. Let's hear it for Skip Maggoria. I was really honored when Skip asked me to come and introduce this incredible musician. Danny was one of the architects of Chicago Transit Authority, soon known as Chicago. As the original drummer of the group, Danny performed and contributed his songwriting talents for over 23 years. During the course of their career, Chicago had 5 #1 albums, 21 top hits. Chicago is historically one of the longest-running successful U.S. groups and pop rock groups, second only to the Beach Boys in terms of albums and singles. Danny has been recognized as one of the world's highly respected, influential jazz rock drummers of all time. He earned the rank in Rolling Stone's all-time top 100 drummers. Following his departure from Chicago, he went on to produce recording artists, Broadway and off-Broadway shows, and independent movie soundtracks. Let's give a big drummers welcome for Danny Seraphine. Thank you. Danny! Danny Seraphine, everybody! was Street Player, right?
Yeah,
Incredible.
that was a bad idea. That went, it was a good idea that went bad.
In which way?
Well, a friend of mine, Carmine P, said, just written a hit disco song called Do You Think I'm Sexy? And I thought, hey, if he can do it, I can do it. And I'd written Street Player years prior, and it was recorded by Rufus and Chaka, which it was cool. But I thought, you know, we never really got, I was always really proud of what the song was about. It's autobiographical, as you can tell. I named my book after it. I thought, you know what, let's do disco, but let's do it better than anybody, if you can do it with this. Better than anybody's ever done it. And, you know, I believe we almost did that, because that's Maynard Ferguson on trumpet, right? Airto on percussion, right? Myself on drums, Peter Cetera singing his ass off. Peter and James Pankow, great horn arrangement. You would think, can't miss. Well, I thought so too, and so did the record company. They put a ton of money behind it. We finished the record, and they thought, wow, this is, I mean, I was practically rehearsing my Grammy speech. Alone, in fact, to be honest, I was. So maybe that was God's way of like, you know, Dan, don't count your chickens and don't get ahead of yourself. And so I get a call in 1998, so you're talking almost 20 years, I think, right? 20 years? This guy from England, and I'm not going to even try to do an English accent because it's horrible. He says, Danny, he said, it's your song Street, we've been trying to find you for so long. And where are you? I was hiding out in Colorado. I really hadn't played drums for, at that point, since it was 98, so 8 years. I sat in with bands. So he says to me, he says, your song, you know, we've sampled your song. And it was the early days of sampling, you've heard of that. And he said, we've sampled Street Player, and it's breaking out huge in Europe, and it's a dance hit. I'm going, really? And he said, you know, your songwriting partner, Hawk Walensky, who I co-wrote it with, David Hawk Walensky, says, agreed to sell the rights for $1,500. He said, how about you? Do you think are you gonna go along with it and be a nice guy? And I said, I'm in the mountains, and I got a beard, but I'm a street kid from Chicago. I'll be talking to you. So anyways, I grabbed him real hard where I needed to grab him. And I want all you guys to grab him when someone tries to do that to you, right? And I got a third of the song, Hawk got a third, and the writer that, you know, came up with the idea got a third, it was during a really lean financial time, and I made a bunch of money. So it was like saying, well, thank you, God. It's like, Danny, you know, it was God saying, Danny, that actually was a great song, but you needed to have yourself put in line, because you got ahead of yourself with your ego, and who knows what else you were doing. So, all right, so that's kind of a cool thing, you know. I felt pretty good about it. In fact, you know, I got the first ASCAP award for that. There was an ASCAP award attached to it. I went and received it and got all, you know, well, I was going to, and my dad had a stroke. So a friend of mine, all these hip hop artists are getting, you know, because at that point urban music was really, it was, you know, was in full swing. So time marches on again. That was 1998. 2008, I get a phone call. Danny, a hip hop artist by the name of Pitbull wants to sample your song. They said, you know, do you want to approve it? I said, tell them, yes, go ahead, sample it, do it, please. Anyways, again, even bigger, 10 times bigger than the first time. In 2009, probably one of the top 3 songs in the world. So it just goes to show, you know, what you think sometimes are your biggest failures end up being huge success. And there was a lot of lessons I learned in that, besides making a lot of money. So it was Street Player. I got to play that song, and the name of the book was a good idea. That's the Street Player song.
Kicked out of high school twice. A nun pushes you and you push her back. Come on, Dan.
You had to bring that
And a
up.
father at 15.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it was an education of different sorts.
Okay.
I have a degree in streets and life.
And the JPs.
Yeah.
This was a gang like 2 steps below the mob in Chicago, correct?
Yeah, the neighborhood was like the last bastion of mafia, you know, in Chicago. The movie, if you saw the movie Casino, that was kind of the guys that controlled the neighborhood.
And that time you were playing drums with a couple of different groups, but nothing permanent. And you got in a street fight, and the book tells me that Danny could fight. That's for sure. This is a mean band, or a mean gang for sure. But there was a severe fight one night, and one of his fellow gang members was gonna pistol whip somebody and probably put him down for good. And Danny stopped him and walked away from that, saying, "Hey, bud, I think I got to get out of the gang business." Is that right?
Well, it was actually in the beginning of my gang things. It's kind of an instinct. He had a gun with him, and he said, "Don't worry, it's not loaded." And he said, "Man, I'm going to pistol whip somebody tonight."
Yeah.
And I thought about it, and there was a smaller guy was even smaller than me, and I'm not big, okay. And we were engaged with this gang from an area called Franklin Park. It was all Italians. We were a mixture of Italians, Irish, Polish, a lot of Italians and Irish mostly. And it was a full-out brawl. You know, we probably had 30 guys. They probably had 30 guys. And he had this little guy, he was a small Italian guy. He had over the car, and he was about to take his face off. I don't know. I just grabbed his hand and I said, "No, don't do that." So that was kind of a realization that this wasn't really what I was totally cut out for, you know. And there was a lot more after that. But he looked at me like, "What are you doing?" I said, "No, you don't need to do that. So we've already beat him, you know." And he came back to help me because that guy remembered that I did that. And
Yeah.
Chicago, pre the Missing Links, if you read the book, I was in a cover band with Terry and Walt called the Missing Links, and we were playing a club in Chicago. It was a big ballroom called the Cheetah. And the guys that I hung out with got into a fight with those guys. It was huge. It was a huge brawl again, and they spotted me up there. They were going to come after me. They spotted me. They said, "Hey," and I remember seeing the little guy that I saved, had a hat on, kind of like this. I don't know why, you know. And I saw him point to them, tell them, and they all looked at me and waved and walked away. So it came back. It's, you know, the good things in life that you do come back. I mean, you don't do them because they come back. You do them because they're the right things to do.